there's laws. You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are.
Our cameras capturing that standoff between an accused squatter and a homeowner last month.
Kips Bay in Manhattan and another grisly murder. Police say 2 alleged squatters killed a mother and hid her body in a duffel bag in an apartment.
A Venezuelan national dubbed the migrant influencer is at the center of controversy this morning. He has been using TikTok to coach migrants how to live in the U.S. by taking advantage of laws protecting squatters.
So let's talk about the squatting issue and how liberal New York has just changed the law to make squatting illegal. So let's talk about the squatter crisis that was happening across the nation. Now, every state has some type of protection for squatters, but that is changing dramatically, and I mean dramatically. So what is squatting? Well, squatting is when someone goes on to property that is not theirs and they stay on that property for a certain amount of time. Now, on average, that amount of time is 10 years. So if a squatter stays on your property for 10 years and it's not ejected, then that squatter can become the owner of that property. It's known in law as adverse possession. Now, rights given to squatters vary from state to state. As an example, in New York, if you go on a 2-month vacation and then come back and people are living in your home, and if they can show that they've been there for longer than 30 days, you cannot kick them out. Matter of fact, it's likely going to take you 2 years to evict them because you have to go through the normal eviction process. Now, it's worse than that. Because now the law considers them to be a tenant of yours, you have to continue to pay the mortgage, you have to continue to pay the light and gas bills, and everything required to keep that tenant comfortable. So now if the homeowner then kicks the squatter out and changes the locks, the homeowner will be arrested for an unlawful eviction. Now that's what happened to this homeowner in the case you're about to see. Now the wildest part about this case is the person who she's trying to get out of her house has no documents or no proof that he's even been living there for 30 days. But in New York, only thing you have to do is say you've been living there for 30 days and the police can do nothing.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home. So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed is current and legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
Now this got so insane, even TYT had to call it out.
So they pushed through the doors, okay?
Which, by the way, I saw the tape. It's arguably assault.
Pushed through the squatters pushed through the doors.
She's on the other side of the door. They push her through the door.
And then refused to leave. And guess what? Let's take a look at another picture, the next picture. That's Andaloro. She got arrested.
They put her in handcuffs.
They arrested
even
her.
Though she owns the house and she has the deed. And then every part of this story gets worse. The cops asked the guys, do you have any lease? Do you have anything that proves that you're a tenant? They said, no, they don't.
No, it's even better.
They arrested the homeowner anyway.
No, it's even better than that. Let's go to graphic 7. When Eyewitness News asked Brian Rodriguez, that's the squatter, the man who claims to have a lease, for documentation, he provided none. Instead, he showed bills for work he claimed he had done to the house. He said he moved into the home a few months ago and signed documents with a realtor, but wouldn't say who that realtor is. So the only thing that he provided were documentations of a bill.
Now, on top of that craziness, the migrants got a brilliant idea. Why don't we just start going to people's homes and living there? And if they don't catch us in 30 days, we become tenants and they can't kick us out for 2 years.
A Venezuelan national dubbed the migrant influencer is at the center of controversy this morning. He has been using TikTok to coach migrants how to live in the U.S. by taking advantage of laws protecting squatters. Hannah Doba reports.
In his most recent controversial TikTok video, Moreno is telling his followers to avoid living on the streets in the United States. They can, quote, invade empty homes and live there, saying under U.S. law, if a house is uninhabited, it can be seized, referring to squatting rights in our country.
So migrants started squatting.
Talk about several of the 6 migrant squatters released without bail on gun and drug charges. They are now back behind bars. 3 were taken into custody by ICE agents in the Norwood section of the Bronx yesterday. That was a surprise. Authorities say they were part of a heavily armed group of migrants allegedly selling drugs after taking over this multi-family house. They were squatting there despite the landlord trying to get them out.
I got you. And then the unthinkable happened. Someone actually went on vacation for a month, came back, confronted migrants in their home, and they were killed.
To a developing story in Kips Bay in Manhattan and another grisly murder. Police say 2 alleged squatters killed a mother and hid her body in a duffel bag in an apartment.
Police sources tell us investigators have identified 2 people who may have been squatting in that apartment and who they believe beat Vitale's to death before stealing her car from the street and fleeing to Pennsylvania, where they later got into a car accident.
So now this became a huge issue really fast because you have hundreds of thousands of homeless migrants who are looking for a place to stay. And now they figure out that if you could find a place that's empty and sneak in and just say you've been there for 30 days, you can't be kicked out for 2 years. That's gold to a migrant. Now, the state of New York did something dramatic. They essentially erased all squatting rights. So now, in the state of New York, squatters have absolutely no rights. Check it out.
The governor of New York speaking out just a few minutes ago about the new anti-squatter law that she signed into effect. The push for change came after a series of 7 on Your Side investigations into the problem. Investigative reporter Dan Krauth was there, joins us in the newsroom with more. Dan?
Sandra, the governor signed off on the squatter law as part of the state's new budget package. I just got done speaking with her about it and how it became a reality. What are your reactions to the changes made in state law, and how do you think they will impact New Yorkers moving forward?
Well, we put them into state law because it makes sense. And I thank you for your reporting that put a spotlight on the fact that there are people illegally in other people's homes and creating havoc. And so we needed to make sure that our budget, the laws that we introduced just last week, would address this crisis. So squatters do not have the rights as tenants. That is firm. They can be prosecuted, and there'll be consequences to them. So that is the message that should go out there. You are not living in those houses legally. And again, I thank you for your coverage of this.
So what did New York do? Well, in New York, if you were living in a place longer than 30 days, you were deemed a tenant. Now, under New York law, if you are a tenant, then the only way to evict you from a property would be to send you through the eviction process, which is housing court. Now, in New York City, it could take up to 2 years to evict somebody because of the backlog caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The courts are still trying to catch up to the backlog of cases. So the legislature just made a simple adjustment. They said tenants are not squatters, meaning that if someone breaks into a house and is living there for 60 days, 90 days, even a year, and the owner comes back and says, hey, who are you? Why are you on my property? That person can be arrested for trespassing on someone else's property. Now, New York isn't the first state to essentially eliminate squatting rights. Florida did it about a month ago.
We move on next here tonight to the new state law that now allows squatters to be thrown out of homes that don't belong to them.
Governor Ron DeSantis signed the bill this afternoon in Orlando. And our Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders joins us now live from Tallahassee to tell us how all this will work. Forrest.
Well, guys, I can tell you this was not a very controversial policy. In fact, it was unanimously approved by the legislature earlier this year during the legislative session. And now, with Governor Ron DeSantis' signature, Florida becomes one of the first states in the nation to lean in on this issue.
Now, before you go, I do want to give an update on the first case that we heard. Remember the woman who was arrested for trying to kick out the squatter? Well, the local district attorney saw that case and wound up dropping all charges against her and charging the squatter with multiple felonies.
Breaking update to a story. 7 on Your Side team was first to report an accused squatter in Queens. Well, he was just in court where the Queens district attorney just revealed charges. Our cameras were rolling when 35-year-old Brian Rodriguez pushed through a door and tried to re-enter a home that he claimed to be renting. The legal homeowner had changed the locks just minutes before, an act that she was arrested for at the time.
The
accused squatter arrested and faced a judge just a few minutes ago for the first time. Take a look. We've captured this video of Brian Rodriguez walking out of the courtroom with his attorney with a scarf wrapped around his head. He didn't want to answer any of our questions, but told the judge he's the victim of a scam, claiming he signed a bogus lease to live in a home that doesn't belong to him. A grand jury didn't buy it. Rodriguez is charged with burglary, grand larceny, and criminal possession of stolen property.
So yeah, it seems like we got some justice in that case. Don't forget, if you like this video and you've made it to this part, like, share, subscribe, do all the great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.